person makes a decision to do something that they believe that is right in the eyes of God, which it is right in the eyes of God, but it's a difference when a person is doing something that they believe is right in the sight of God, which is good intentions, but God never told them to do that. So by them doing it, they're doing it off of their own power. Now, that doesn't mean God will not honor that, because they're stepping away from something that they truly believe that is not godly or it is not pleasing unto God. This is what they believe, versus God really telling them, this is what I don't want you to do. Case in point, when God dealt with you about not dating, he literally came to you and said, don't date. Which really, that was the strength that you were able to pull on when you were going through the process of loneliness. Mm-hmm. Because you were able to reflect back on his voice. And that kind of gave you that, not kind of, but it gives you the strength to continue to do what it is that he has told you not to do. Is you're continually doing what it is that he has told you to do, and you're not doing what it is he's told you not to do. So meaning that you got the strength to push forward and push through with what it is he's told you to do, based on what he has told you to do, based on his voice. And some people, they make a decision to do something because in their heart they believe. Notice what I just said. In their heart they believe, but they did not hear God's voice telling them to do it. So therefore, when they do it, they're really doing it off of their own strength. And now when it comes a point where they go through that process of being attacked, it's going to be very, not only difficult for them to hold on, but also it's going to be a situation where they're not going to hold on because they don't have no strength. Because anytime when you do something out of your own strength or your own ability or your own agenda, or something that you feel that you're doing because you think it's the right thing to do, God ain't tell you to do it, but you feel that it's the right thing to do because you feel like that's what's pleasing to God, then 9 times out of 10, you are not going to fulfill what you're trying to do. You're not going to accomplish it. You're not going to be able to succeed in it. Why? Because you have no strength from God. You're really dependent on your own strength. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's like somebody trying to get out of sin, right? And as they, God is like, yes, I mean, of course, that's my will. I don't want you to be in sin. But remember, God allows people to be in bondage situations for a reason. And he knows when it is the right timing for them to be delivered out of that particular bondage that they're in, because he has a purpose and plan for their life. So he's the one that is going to approach them and tell them and convict them in their heart that this is what I don't want you to do anymore. And they're going to hear God's voice. And even when they go through the process of, being lonely, or they go through that process of they're wrestling with their flesh, because now they're by themselves now. They don't have that companionship from the opposite sex anymore. So now it's really a struggle for them now. Remember, when God tells you to do something, it's never a struggle. Will it be a challenge? Yes, it will. Because when you're struggling, you're doing it, you basically warring against your own flesh. You're warring against your own ability. You're warring against your own strength. So now you're doing what you're doing based on your own strength and not the strength of God. Because when God tells you to do something, it's not going to be a struggle. Is it going to be a challenge? Of course it is. It's going to be a challenge. Why? Because God is telling you to do something opposite of what you normally would not do. So people need to understand that when they're doing something, are you doing it because God told you to do it, or are you doing it because you feel that it's the right thing to do? And case in point, when you're doing that, now you don't know, but actually you're trying to think that you know what's best for you. When really, actually, God knows what's best for you. God knows when was the right timing for the people of Israel to be in bondage for that long period of time, 400 years, and then God eventually made up his mind to shape and mold a man who he was going to choose to go to Pharaoh and then tell Pharaoh to let God's people go. That's when God started the process of how he wanted the people to get delivered. But before that time, God hadn't made up his mind to do it yet. You know, and the people would have not been able to stay awake, because some people left and then some people went back. But the true children who were really chosen by God, those who truly knew who they were, those are the ones who God had chose to come up out of Egypt. By God telling Moses to go and get his people, then God made up in his mind, now it's time for them to be delivered. See, and we think that because we know what's best for us, or we think we know the mind of God, we have a tendency of trying to do something aforetime before it's the timing of what God really wants things to be. And unfortunately, we're going to struggle with it. Unfortunately, we're not going to be successful with it. Unfortunately, God is not going to be talking. I'm just saying, these things will start to transpire. You know, you're going to start reaching out for people to do this for you, people to pray for you, pray for me in this, pray for this there. Why? Because I just don't know what's going on now. I'm just lonely right now. I'm just going through a bad situation right now, and I don't know what to do. Well, now you have to go back to the beginning. Did God tell you to do that? Because one thing about God, when God tells you to do something, he continues to give you the instructions, so you can continue to obey what it is he's telling you to do. That's why he can never fail. God can never fail, because God always, when he institutes and initiates an impersonal instructions of what he wants you to do, he's going to continue to reiterate that it is him who is speaking to you, to continue to give you the strength, because he knows that if he doesn't do that, your flesh is going to take over, and eventually you're going to start listening to the flesh more than you start listening to the Holy Spirit and listening to his voice speaking. So he will not leave you to the point where you don't hear anything. He will constantly, continuously reiterate his command. He will constantly continue to reiterate his instructions. He will constantly continue to reiterate his direction. He will not leave you to the point where you will have to assume that is he speaking now, or why isn't he saying anything? What's going on? Why I'm not hearing nothing? Why is it that I heard one time but now I'm not hearing no more? It is because if you did hear it the first time, then that means that he's going to reiterate. But if you didn't hear anything and you just basically going off of something which you think you heard and it wasn't him, then you're going to constantly think that as time goes on through the process, you're going to constantly think that. That's why you have to know God's voice, and you got to wait on God to be the one to initiate what he wants, and stop trying to assume that you know what he wants. You know?
I noticed that when God told me to do like anything, like start a journal, stop dating, he gave me provision. He gave me the tools I needed to get it done. And I remember even in times I was fasting, it was a struggle. And I realized the reason why it's a struggle, because I'm doing it on my own. I decided to go and fast because I felt like that's the right thing to do, and I need to break through some of the fast. And never did I go to God and say, God, what would you have me to do to get through? Because different situations calls for different provisions. And you can't look to somebody else's provision for your breakthrough. And that's a lot of times where we go wrong. Well, God told Michelle to stop dating, so I'm going to stop dating. God told Michelle to write a journal, so I'm going to write a journal. God told Michelle to do this, so I'm going to do that. What is God telling you to do? Because even when you're doing something in good intentions, we already know the story. Good intentions get you killed. What's his name? Isa? When when the ark was getting ready to fall,
yeah,
he grabbed the ark.
Yeah.
In good intentions, he was trying to save the ark. But guess what? He did it in the flesh and got struck down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, good intentions can get us killed because, yes, we want to do it right. We want to do it God. It's not just about doing it right, because everything that's right in the eyes of man may not be right in the eyes of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew for Marshall, when God said, I need you to stop dating, and he told me as clear as day, there are people who didn't understand it. But that didn't deter me. You know why? Because I knew what God told me. See, when you don't know when God tells you something and you're just doing it on your own, anybody can come and persuade you to do just the opposite of what you said God told you. But when God has told you literally, and you heard that in the depths of your spirit, no one could ever have come to me and say, Marsha, you need to date. How are you going to find out about somebody if you don't date? No, it didn't make any sense. If I would have been thinking about it in my own finite mind, how am I going to get to know somebody that I don't date? But when God tells you to do it, you know he's going to give you the tools to do it. Just like I was saying earlier, when someone, your boss or whatever, tells you to do something, your teacher, your professor, they have given you the tools and will give you the tools to get the job done. But if you decide to do an essay or you decide to do something that your boss will tell you to do, and you way over here in the corner waiting for it to get done, you have no tools, you have no provision, you have no instruction, you have no direction, you have no guidance, you have nothing. You just on your own doing what you feel you should be doing. That's the right thing to do. And everything is all about timing. God knew he couldn't have told me to stop dating before I heard him. He couldn't have given me those instructions prior to him telling me because I wasn't ready. And a lot of times we will do things like, I want to fast today. And I'm going to fast. And I know God going to bless it. But you struggling. You hungry. I remember when I used to fast. And when God told me to fast, there was no hunger. There was no hunger pains. There was no irritation. There was no aggravation, no frustration. And he gave me the tools I needed to do what I was supposed to do in those times that I was fasting. But the times that I felt myself fasting on my own, because someone said I should fast, or I felt like I should be fasting because I want to break through in this particular area, I struggled, y'all. I struggled. I was irritated. I was mad. I was hungry. I was so mad, I couldn't even be in the spirit because the flesh was angry. So we have to be very careful of when we try to do something in our own strength, thinking it's the right thing to do. Or it's just the right thing to do because I'm a believer and I'm a child of God and I got to do it. And you never consult. You have to consult God in everything, not just relationships, jobs, fasting, family, friends, your body, things that you want to do. You have to ask your Father, what would you have me to do? Think about Noah. When God told Noah to go and build that ark, he gave Noah exactly what he needed to build that entire ark. He didn't send him out there with no blueprint. He knew exactly the measurements. He had the inches, the foot, everything, how big it should be, how many animals should go in there. Think about if Noah would have said, you know what, I'm just going to go and build an ark. Yeah, I'm going to build it because that's what I want to do. And I think it'd be a good thing from God. I love it if I just build an ark for everybody. And if a flood comes or if it starts raining or whatever, it won't destroy people anymore. I'm just going to build an ark. Do you think he would have been successful? No. Because he wouldn't have had the tools. He wouldn't have known the measurements. He wouldn't have known the provision on how to do it. So we have to look at it like that. God, is this something you want me to do? And a lot of times, he'll tell you before you even ask. I didn't go to God and say, God, do you want me to date? I just heard him say it. I need you to stop dating. I didn't ask God, God, do you want me to, lock up my hair? No, I need you to lock it up because you're too vain. Because back in the day, I was all vain, y'all. I was all about my hair, my nails, because I didn't really know who I was. And God told me to lock it up. I didn't ask God, can I go lock it up? Because that's not something I wanted to do, to be honest. But sometimes he will tell you to do something before you even ask. Because a lot of things you don't even know what to ask. Think about it. A lot of things you don't know what to ask. So the Holy Spirit will ask for you, will intervene for you. And God, that's God's way of protecting you. So whenever you decide that you want to do something because you think it's the right thing to do, because I think it'll please God. People are in ministries because they feel like it will please God. Because the more work they do, the more God will be pleased with them. I can get some inheritance in heaven. I can get some stars, some rewards. And God said, I ain't tell you to do that. See, you over here doing this. And I'm telling you, I need you over here. But we can't hear him because we do what we want to do. So we have to be very careful when we think about doing things in good intentions, because good intentions can get you killed. When I say killed, in your spirit, your life, just spiritually, mentally, emotionally, it can drain you. It can kill you. It'll get you off your path because you're not where God wants you to be. So just remember that. And I'm done.